Welcome to Everyday Linux User. In today's video we're going to be looking at ChatGPT and AI and how it can help you as an everyday Linux user. So here I am at the ChatGPT website. So if you go to Google and type ChatGPT, it's the first link, chat.openai.com, and that's where I am here. And it's going to ask you to log in, so you can sign up and you can create an account, or you can use Google or Microsoft or Apple, but I've already got an account, so I'm not going to do that. So if I log in, and I can log in using my Google account, and here we are at the ChatGPT site, and down the left hand side you can see the sort of things I've searched for. So like, I've been creating games, I've been researching what ChatGPT can do in terms of comparisons, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you some of the things you can do with ChatGPT, and we'll see how well it compares to just using plain old Google or YouTube for the similar thing. So the first thing, as an everyday Linux user, if you've never used Linux before, you might want to know you might want to know what is Linux. So and ChatGPT lists off what's essentially very similar to the Wikipedia page, and it's a built up list of what it gives you. And if we search in Google, you get a very similar sort of thing. What I would say is the What is Linux website tells you a little bit more about the components of Linux, whereas ChatGPT gives you more of an overview of what Linux is. So you might have heard of Linux distributions. What is a Linux distribution? And it's giving you some popular distributions. So how do you know which one to use? So which is better, Ubuntu or Linux Mint for a new user? So it very much sits on the fence when this question is asked, but it does give you some information about Ubuntu, and it will give some information about Linux Mint. It leaves you to make the decision, it doesn't make the decision for you. We could ask the same question and see if it and it does. It says Ubuntu is generally a better choice compared to Arch, and it tells you why. So you can use ChatGPT to make some sort of informed decisions based on the information it's going to provide you here. So the next question is, how can I try Ubuntu? So and it'll tell you can create a live USB, you can create a virtual machine, and it even tells you that you can use Rufus or Etcher, so which tools to use. It does come up with Ruby. I wouldn't recommend that at all. And that will allow you to run Ubuntu as a desktop app. So let's see if that works or not, if that link's still there. Oddly, it's not letting me click on the link. but I could select it. Has page not found. So ChatGPT isn't perfect. It makes mistakes, but if you're Googling, you'll have the same issue. So now we know we can create a live USB, and it even tells you the tools to use. How can I create a Linux Ubuntu USB using Etcher? Now, the steps for creating a Ubuntu USB using Etcher before ChatGPT comes up with them. One, you need to go to the Ubuntu website and you need to go to the downloads page, pick the version of Ubuntu you want to use, whether it's the latest version or the long-term support release, download the ISO. You then need to go to etcher.io, you need to download Etcher, and if you're using Windows, you can run it from the executable and it'll ask you to accept the license agreement, and then you just run the Etcher. You'll need to put a USB drive in. You will select the ISO, select the drive and click flash, and it will create the USB drive for you. In Linux, you also go to etcher.io, you download the Etcher app image, you make that app image executable, you run Etcher, and again you select the ISO, select the USB drive and click flash. So why am I telling you all this? Let's see what ChatGPT comes up with. So download Ubuntu, so it's giving you the link. Download Etcher, giving you the link. Install Etcher, doesn't tell you how, but you can use ChatGPT to help you with that. Insert your USB drive, open Etcher, select your Ubuntu ISO, select your USB drive, flash Ubuntu, and wait for the flash completion. Right, so now we have that. I am already running Linux on my machine. So let's see if we can say how to install Etcher using Linux. And as you can see, it's very good. It's told me to download Etcher. It's told me to make that image executable by using the terminal, and now it's told me how to run that app image. It's also given me the option to do it as a Debian package if you're using Debian. So if you download the Debian package, you can install a package manager specific to your distribution, so like this, and then you just sudo apt install it, and then you've got alternative methods for other distributions. So let's compare that to Google. Take the top link because that's what most of us do. Number 1, download Etcher. It's got a screenshot. Click on the download for Linux button to download the Etcher zip file. Extract the app image from the zip file. We've downloaded the zip file containing the app image. To extract the file using GUI, right click on the Etcher zip file and click extract here. Go to the downloads folder. It's showing you how to extract it that way. Run Etcher. It's saying check the allow executing file as a program. Double click on the exe, and it's got screenshots. And the one thing ChatGPT doesn't have is screenshots. And so you can see Google is better for that purpose, and also YouTube is obviously a great resource for these things as well. Now, one benefit of ChatGPT over maybe YouTube is sometimes you have to watch a 10-minute YouTube video, sorry about that, to do something that if you could just read these instructions, it will show you how to do it. Now, where ChatGPT probably isn't so good, of course, is if you get stuck what do you do next? So the next thing is, you've got your Ubuntu USB drive. How do you boot your Ubuntu USB drive? So now it should say something about pressing the relevant function key to get the boot menu on your computer. So it does. It says insert the USB drive, restart your computer. You will need to access the BIOS, and it tells you you have to press a specific key, and then it says change the boot order. Now you don't have to necessarily do that. In some cases, if you just choose the boot drive, you can actually pick the drive you want to boot from on a one-off basis, because you might not want to change the boot order permanently. You might only want to just boot this time from USB. It says save changes and exit, restart your computer, and then when you boot, it will boot automatically from the USB, and then you can explore Ubuntu using the try Ubuntu without installer method. So it's very good at coming up with quick, easy suggestions, and it's fairly accurate. There's nothing here that I wouldn't have said, except I wouldn't have changed the boot order. I would have said press the relevant function key to bring up the boot menu, and the boot menu gives you the list of drives to pick from without having to change the order. Because if you change the order every time you boot your computer, you have to wait for it to see if there's a USB drive in your machine. If there is, it will boot from that. If there isn't, it will boot from your SSD or hard drive. Well, that's a few seconds extra boot time you're adding to check whether there's USB or not. So you don't want that permanently. You might just want to do that on a one-off basis, just to boot from that USB drive once. So now we have created a USB drive, we've booted into the USB drive. How do I install Ubuntu from the USB drive? And it should give you suggestions like pick your language, pick your keyboard layout, pick your drive layout, create a user, pick your location, all that sort of stuff. So let's see what it does. Select language, connect to the internet, choose the installation type. Select your time zone, keyboard layout, user details, installation process. Now, whilst this is good and it's giving you layman's terms what you need to do, this isn't going to help you install Ubuntu if you've never done it before. If you're quite tech savvy, it will. Seeing things visually is sometimes better than just reading a screen of text. So you can go to the Ubuntu website. So we've already booted from the flash drive, and here we go. Normal installation, minimal installation, type of installation. Actually, I think this might be out of date. So the very first page on Google isn't actually in date. But there's, obviously you can see videos from YouTube suggested, make use of, it's false, etc. And of course you will want to use this guide. If you come to my website, YouTube Everyday Linux User, there's a playlist, Linux installation step by step, and you can see how to install Ubuntu Linux. So it goes through the whole process of creating the USB drive, how to boot, choosing from the boot menu into Ubuntu, and it shows you all the steps as you go along. So in some cases videos are better than using AI, because AI is text based. And I've got, if you're using Ubuntu 23 or above, you can use this one. And this shows you using Windows, creating the USB drive, shows you how to create a USB drive using Linux, and then read it into the installer, and it shows you every step of the process. So in some cases videos are better than using ChatGPT. So you can see I've got Chrome installed on my machine. So what we want to do now is, imagine you haven't got Chrome installed on your machine. how do I install Chrome using, let's pretend we're not using Ubuntu or Xubuntu, let's pretend we're using Debian. And there you go, that gives you a guide how to install Chrome using Debian. What about if you're using Fedora? So as you can see, ChatGPT is a great tool for learning stuff. In some ways it replaces things like the how-to websites. I'm using it for help with my computer, but how do I plumb in a washing machine? So you can see you can get step-by-step instructions of how to do straightforward things. Now where ChatGPT comes into its own is in software development, and there's been some talk that software developers are going to be obsolete in the next few years because ChatGPT or other AI engines are going to replace them. But the trouble is that at the moment ChatGPT will give you suggestions of code, and they're very good. I'm not going to lie, they are very good. But then they don't necessarily come up with the structure that you'll need to come up with the full application that is maintainable and that you can release easily, and that's where the nuances of being a proper professional software developer reside. It's not all about writing code, it's about how you structure code, how you do releases, how you do source code management, how you deal with pipelines, how you deal with branching, and all those sort of things. But you can see down this left hand side I said JavaScript Flappy Bird. So I'm going to create a new chat and say, can you create me Flappy Bird using Java? And you see it's coming up with code for Flappy Bird. And it tells you a little bit of instructions about the game. So what we can do is we can copy that code, and I have IntelliJ on my desktop. Now we have to be careful. ChatGPT has called it Flappy Bird, so we have to call it Flappy Bird as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a file in here, Java class, I'm going to call it Flappy Bird, and we're going to clear that, and we're going to click paste, and that's our Flappy Bird game. And we can now build it and see if it runs. And that's what it's created us. It's not great at all. But you can see it's given you the basis of the code, and that's where, from a developer's point of view, it comes in quite handy. Not for creating an entire ecosystem, an entire game, but for instance, say I want now I don't know if I typed that in properly there, but it's showing me now how to create a web API. Install Express, create the JSON file, and it's showing me a get. It's showing me a get with a single. It's showing me post. show me put, show me delete, and it's then setting the app to listen on a port, and you'll have a basic web API running on port 3000, I believe, at this moment in time. So whilst that's not going to be a full application, it's giving you the template for the code that you want to use. From a programmer's point of view, ChatGPT can be incredibly useful. Going back to Linux, what else could you use ChatGPT for? Well, let's use it for things that aren't necessarily Linux based. So imagine you're going on a road trip, you want to create a Spotify playlist. So I want to have maybe some songs from the 80s for my Spotify playlist. So can you suggest some songs for 1980s Spotify playlist? So if you're on a party on a Saturday night, 20 good songs there, and they are quite popular songs from the 1980s, and I think people wouldn't be too sad to listen to that playlist. If you're a rocker, or if you like the music I like from the 80s, I'm very much a Motley Crue Poison fan. Hair metal known as glam metal. I say hair metal over glam metal because glam metal was also from the 1970s by bands like The Sweet and some others that we can't mention due to their singer not being the nicest person. So here we go. Def Leppard, are they hair metal? I guess they are. Guns N' Roses, Whitesnake, Poison, Warrant, Bon Jovi, Rat, Motley Crue, Skid Row. I mean, there's some great songs for somebody like me. This is totally up my street, this sort of playlist. And the other sort of music I like is punk. I'm an old school punk. So now I saw an article the other day on TikTok, and it was from Rolling Stone. It was the 10 best punk acts of all time, and they put Green Day as number one, and if you're from my era, Green Day doesn't get close to that number one spot when you've got bands like Sex Pistols and The Clash. Let's see what the punk playlist is by ChatGPT. So as you can see, you've got the bands that I would expect to see there. The Sex Pistols, Ramones, The Clash, Dead Kennedys, Buzzcocks. I mean, in that top 10 list, they didn't even mention the Buzzcocks. There is one Green Day song in that list, but that is a fairly decent punk playlist. So ChatGPT can be used for novelty things. It doesn't have to be used just for serious things like how-to videos. Sometimes it can come up with some good suggestions for music. So that really is ChatGPT, an overview. I'm not going to take this video any longer. I've shown you the good things it can do. It's very text-based, but it's great for leading you down a path of understanding. So for installing Linux, it was a case of, what is Linux? Oh wait, what's a Linux distribution? Right, okay, I've got Linux distribution. Which one's the best one for me? Oh, right, how do I create a USB? How do I use it without breaking my Windows? How do I try it out? Oh, it's giving me USB, or it's giving me a virtual machine. Okay, now I've got my USB drive. How do I use it? And it will show you how to do that. So each step of the way, you can build up understanding by asking the right questions. And ChatGPT is essentially very good. It could be a Google killer in some instances, not a YouTube killer. YouTube is different, not just because I'm doing videos on YouTube, but because YouTube is very visual. Sometimes you do need the video to show you each step of the way, or sometimes you need the website that Google provides that has the images on them as well. So I think it enhances the internet. I don't think it replaces things like Google or YouTube, but it's certainly a good tool to use. And that's the end of the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Linux User.